thank you for joining me. First off, why propose this bill? Why was this something that you wanted to do? It's one of your first actions.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. My name is Wren Williams. I am the 9th District delegate for Patrick County, Franklin County, and Henry County. And one of the big issues that we saw this year was critical race theory being pushed in our schools. This has been coming all the way back, snowballing from the Terry McAuliffe, Ralph Northam administration, 2014, 2015. We saw them introducing the ideas into our Department of Education curriculum. There are memos dating back to that time point. And as I said, it snowballed into the curriculum across our Commonwealth. This bill is very important to protecting our children from indoctrination of socialist and Marxist ideology and their own.
Sorry to interrupt. Can I jump in for a second? Critical race theory, when you say that term, it's a pretty loaded term. What do you mean? Because critical race theory, my understanding of it is it's a high level, graduate level instruction. So I don't know if that's being taught at any elementary schools or middle schools or high schools in Virginia. My understanding is it's not, as far as that definition of critical race theory. So what do you mean when you say the term critical race theory?
Yeah, so you're talking about the collegiate level psychological lens of viewing everything through the lens of race. What I am discussing is more of the lowercase version of critical race theory, not the proper noun of critical race theory. Critical race theory has tenets which suggest that systemic racism is baked into every single institution throughout America. And so what this would do is eliminate those divisive concepts from being taught to our children, who we want to be seen by the content of their character and not the color of their skin. So it's important that we pass this bill in order to put some guardrails up on our curriculum to make sure that we don't have activist teachers in our classroom indoctrinating our children.
And you mentioned divisive concepts, and you define them pretty clearly in the bill. I've got it right here to my left. Can you talk to me about what these divisive concepts are in your eyes?
Sure, and I'm going to reference my bill. Some of the divisive concepts that we have seen is the teaching that one is inherently superior or inferior based on the color of their skin. We have seen that if you are one color or another color, then you are guilty of the crimes and sins of our forefathers who might have looked like us. We've seen the teaching that capitalism and free markets are inherently racist. And all of these are divisive concepts that just have no place in our curriculum for our children.
So I'm sure you have social media, and I'm sure you've seen some of the responses. This bill's gotten a lot of backlash from many teachers. What would be your message to them who are upset with non-teachers? This is a direct quote: non-teachers dictating how teachers should teach.
So I wouldn't have to do this if teachers were teaching curriculum that was beneficial to our children, protecting them from ideas such as socialist and communist tenets that we're seeing. This bill roots out the negativity and the racism that is being perpetuated. As Governor Youngkin said, the soft bigotry of lower expectations. This is meant to guide the curriculum and legislate the curriculum. And as far as how teachers actually carry out the curriculum, they have full opportunity to do what they would like, but they have to operate within the confines of what we as a Commonwealth have decided is the correct curriculum for our children.
Okay, I want to find one section you had in here about people feeling ashamed, and tell me if you could help me find that spot.
I've got it. It's section 1A, and then it's section 7 in that list.
Great. So it says here, an individual. This would be a divisive concept if an individual should feel discomfort, guilt, anguish, or any other form of psychological distress on account of the individual's race, religion, ethnicity, or sex. So to paraphrase, sort of, if it makes you feel ashamed because of these lessons, how do you teach something like historical wrongs like slavery? Would that be violating this?
So you could absolutely still teach the facts surrounding slavery. What this would eliminate is the idea that, little Johnny over there should feel ashamed because his skin is white and he looked like our founding fathers. That is problematic. That is what my bill would eliminate, eliminating that divisive concept that can actually cause our young children to experience guilt for something that they are not, they did not do.
Okay. The bill talks about current events and saying that teachers should present diverse and contending principles in their coverage of current events. There was an event, not in Virginia, of teachers doing sort of both sidisms for the Holocaust because of messages they were getting, whether that was the intended message or not. Is that a concern with this? I mean, for what topics do teachers need to do both sides?
What is your question on that one? If you could restate that one.
Teachers might feel as if they need to find another side on something where they think there's only one side. So what does that apply to? What are the situations where they should, what was the intent of putting that in there? Why do you think it's important that teachers should do both sides? And address the concern from folks that think sometimes there aren't other sides.
Yeah, so actually, if you note, that particular section says that no teacher and staff member shall be required to discuss certain current events. So, for example, we have seen that current events such as, President Donald Trump or January 6th or any of those more recent current events, we've seen instruction that you must teach about this current event and you must teach it in this way. That is not objective facts. If a teacher doesn't feel comfortable teaching another side of things or can't find another side of things that they think their children should need, then they wouldn't need to teach anything. This doesn't require them to teach anything. This doesn't look backwards at, say, Nazi Germany and trying to find a good side. This actually just stops the requirement that teachers teach current events that they don't agree with or a stance that they don't agree with.
Okay. The diversity there was a provision in here that said that school boards should not be allowed to hire diversity directors or other positions with a similar title. Why was that put in there? What's wrong with the diversity director?
Well, effectively, diversity directors are state-funded propaganda machines that are inside of our school systems, inside of our teaching and our curriculum. Many people say that we're not teaching CRT in our schools, but effectively, you have equity and diversity directors putting these racist ideas into our school system and creating division. I believe that we don't need these people. We need to be teaching our children that they are all equal under the law, that they have every opportunity to make something of themselves in this country, and that they don't need to blame their skin color for their current circumstances.
Okay. There's another provision in there saying that schools should now have to publish their curriculums as well as the materials, so all textbooks and books that are going to be incorporated, as well as activities like lectures and assemblies. Why was this put in there? Why was that important to you?
We have seen a number of school systems actively avoiding disclosure to parents of students who are minors in the school system. There have been numerous cases of parents later finding out that their children were subjected to a curriculum that they did not agree with. This would be a safeguard to allow our parents to see what their children are being taught, and it would allow them to object to it before it's taught, and it would allow them to continue to play a strong active role in their children's education, which is foundational and fundamental and codified in the Virginia Code.
Okay, and then the last thing I wanted to ask about is the punishment system and the voucher system. We'll start with the punishment. So this, if a teacher or a school board member violates this bill, they can be essentially fined $250. That had a lot of teachers outraged. Any response to why teachers are upset about this?
Well, I'm upset about the fact that our children have been exposed to the tenets of critical race theory since dating back to 2014. We have just now seen this snowball enough to where our parents are seeing the curriculum of their students and objecting to it strongly. That was very loudly proven in the November 2021 election. We were handed a mandate to correct our education system, fix our curriculum, and teach our children all history, good and bad, without the subjective nature of critical race theory.
Do you think this bill has any chance?
I do.
Odd question to ask somebody who proposed it, but honestly, do you think that it's going to get the votes?
I do. I think that this can pass. It's obviously got to go through the committee process. There may be some tweaks, that always happens. One of the big things that I've heard from teachers is mainly the hard July deadline. And so they are concerned that they won't be able to meet that deadline as they've just come out of school. And I've said to them, this is something that is not set in stone, and I appreciate their input, and I would want to work through that so that they could work within the confines of the law, but also not just be trying to forecast a year ahead of time what they're going to teach their children.
Can you give me a specific of something that's concerning to you in schools? Like what is this meant to stop? What do you look at school districts, see is happening and concerns you?
Well, it's meant to stop activist teachers in our classroom teaching children their liberal ideologies and socialist antics and saying that America is bad, every single system needs to be burned to the ground because it's racist, and that they don't have to listen or respect authority because they are inherently racist. That's the intent of this goal, is to eliminate that. We need to be encouraging our children. We need to help them realize that they can seek the American dream if they work hard and they put their nose to the grindstone. And we can absolutely better our entire education system and curriculum by focusing on teaching our children how to think, not teaching them what to think.
Okay, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great night.